There we go. Thank you. Good morning. Today is Monday, August the 5th. My name is Roxana Gamusio. I'm the Executive Director with the Cosmetology and Barber Examiners Board. This meeting was properly noticed on the board's website, and it has been listed since last year. Once the meeting was approved around August of 2023, this current agenda was also on the website prior to July 30th. We will get started here shortly. I want to thank all the members that are here. I also want to thank and welcome the participants that have joined us, including a couple of schools. They are always welcome, and it's wonderful to have the guests here participate with us. At the end of the meeting, we will make sure that if there are any comments from those participating in person or through Teams, that they have an opportunity to discuss the agenda or if they have any additional questions. So, Ms. Becky Russell, as the Vice Chair, welcome to the meeting. If it's okay with you, we will keep going. Let me know if you wanted to do anything different.
No, we can continue. We would like to recognize the schools that are with us. So if you are the leader of a school or would like to have somebody stand up and let us know where you're from. Please. All right. Welcome to TCAT Nashville. Is it the only school?
I'm Sarah Solomon, and I'm from Black and Grant School of Cosmetology, which will be a coming school.
Perfect. Welcome to the board.
Thank you very much, Ms. Russell. On our agenda, the first item of business is to recognize the June minutes from June 2024 meeting. Members, you've been sent this through emails prior to the meeting. If there are any changes or amendments, please let me know so they can be altered. Otherwise, I would need a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by David McElry and a second by Lane Petty. And thank you, members. All those in agreement of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you. And due to our meeting kind of started a little bit odd, I skipped my main role, which is to take roll call vote and make sure we have quorum. I am looking at you know that we do. So when I call your name, if you can please let me know that you're here on the record. Mr. Perry Baldwin.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Anita Charlton.
Here.
Thank you. Ron Gillihan will be joining us shortly. He's not here at the moment. Ms. Monica Lemons.
Here.
Judy McAllister.
Here.
David McElry.
Here.
Jeffrey Moran is also not here today. Lane Petty.
I'm here. But I'm here.
Thank you. Becky Russell.
Here.
Amy Tanksley.
Here.
Thank you. Ryan Timmons is not with us today, and Ms. Tamika Turner is not either. So we do have quorum members in order to proceed. Thank you very much. Members, you've got your iPads with 2 school presentations. Today we have a unique kind of presentation, and so I have before you in person is Erica as well as Zach with Erica's ATA. They are here and will be able to answer any questions you have, and I'll have them come up to the mic as soon as we view their presentation. John, go ahead and get us started for their site. So on your monitors near you, you should be able to see this school. It's a little bit of a different business model with a couple of questions for the members. And so those participating through Teams will also be able to watch this. It's also recorded, and then we'll make sure to have plenty of time to answer questions. Thank you, sir.
Owner and Director of Education at Erica's ATA, now based in Columbia, Tennessee. We are an international beauty brand specializing in diamond plating technology, creating the highest quality products for the nail industry. Throughout the last decade of building my company, we have experienced exceptional growth. Currently, Erica's has reached over a 900% growth rate since I purchased the family business in 2014. It's with that same passion for excellence, growth, and innovation that we are entering into launching an accredited nail academy. Over the last 10 years, I have traveled the world teaching classes and certification courses with countless nail techs and have had the immense honor of hearing so many stories firsthand. I've spent thousands of hours teaching them and learning from them in return. Many have shared their ins and outs of their education experience, and unfortunately, it hasn't been pleasant. They are discouraged. They are struggling to make money despite being extremely talented. They weren't taught how to run their business while receiving education, and I know that we can do better. Over the years, I have felt an urge and growing need to challenge this narrative to ensure the health and safety standards continue to be improved in nail salons for the technician as well as for the public. One of the ways we have become the leading resource for technicians around the world is through our online teaching platform. We've invested millions of dollars into producing thousands of hours of video content for our consumers. The content we produce doesn't make it to the market until we ensure that we are authentic, honest, and passionate. We aim to ensure that nail tech skills are top-notch, but we also prioritize and see the full person behind the chair, who wants to not just succeed in their career, but also in life. We show up for that as well. Erica's is a solution-driven company. There are many areas we have made a positive and powerful impact outside of education and product delivery. We proudly go into homeless neighborhoods around the U.S. to offer assistance to those who are in need. We also teach other people how to do the same in their community. At Erica's, we are a team of trailblazers, and maybe some would even call us disruptors. With our success, our passion for the industry, and helping people, we are eager and excited to open a school where we can raise the standards of education. This is a dream come true. This is where we come shoulder to shoulder. Having more than 10 years of experience working directly in the nail industry, the changes that must be made to benefit the cosmetology industry as a whole are critical, and especially for our public. With the increasing diabetics, our overweight society, there are so many more needs besides just the fluff and buff. We really should start looking and creating a conversation around wellness. With our joint experience and passion for the beauty industry, I am so excited to introduce myself and start this conversation on how we can truly bring better education to the nail industry. The nail industry has not got a makeover in a really long time. And I'm excited to start that conversation with the Tennessee board, to start with each and every one of you, to be able to get down and to create an experience where people leave empowered and ready, and that we know our community is going to be better cared for, whether that is with a wellness focus or a fluff up, or also just a more well-rounded person who's able to take on all the emotional distractions of running a business and showing up for clients regularly. I'm doing this because I know that I have a voice. And sometimes deeper pockets and louder voices are heard. But I'm doing it for the nail community because they want to be seen, they want to be heard. And I told them, as long as they keep showing up and telling me to go, that I'm going to fight for this. Thank you.
Welcome, Ron, first of all. We got started just to make sure the students can see it all. We completely understand. So here today is Erica and Zach with Erica ATA that you watched, and I'm going to go ahead and have them make sure to test the mic and get ready. You saw their business model. They'll have a couple of questions at least for the members to discuss. Thank you. Yep, you are set.
Good morning, board. Thank you for having us again. I'm Erica Slayball.
Zach Steiger with Erica's ATA, CEO of Erica's.
And we're really excited to stand before you today. A lot of times when people are standing at this podium, they are getting ready to be approved for a school, right? They have a few days before they open up. Let's go. Well, we want to challenge you today and really partner with the Tennessee Cosmetology Board to do things different, okay? In my opinion, nails have been left behind for a long time. There's more money in hair, there's more money in skin, and nails usually kind of just gets what's ever left. I've had the opportunity to grow a very successful international beauty brand. I've had the opportunity to talk to some amazing people. And what I have found that the education that they're receiving across the board in North America just is not up to the level that we need it to be. Not only with the education, but we're also finding that there is a big gap. Can you guys hear me okay? There's a big gap between the medical community as well as the cause. And with that, there is an increased population of obesity and diabetes where there are not enough foot care providers to take care of all the feet in the United States. We want to start this conversation here in Tennessee because we see a need and we don't want to be reactive. We want to start partnering with the younger schools and telling it's not just a fluff and buff. We want to stay within our scope, but we recognize there's different ways that we need to take care of our diabetic community. With that, we have purchased the very end, you guys saw a building, 16,000 square foot, 100-year-old building in Columbia, Tennessee. We want to turn that into a dry mani pedicure academy where we're teaching dry techniques. But here's the thing. Today we are here not to present a model and to get your thumbs up or a thumbs down. We really want to start a conversation on how we can do things different and to improve not only where Tennessee is going as a board, but also to set a new standard across North America. So knowing our time is super short here, is that we kind of have decided, Zach and I, that we wanted to start a discussion, really. We want to build a relationship where we say, hey, here are some of the needs that we are seeing in the community. We're in it every day. I'm just the voice piece and starting here in Tennessee because this is where I call home. But I'm going to allow my CEO, as I like to have the fun stuff, and that's why I hired him, because my new title is Funstigator. If I'm not having fun, I don't want to show up. And as you can see on the video, I like to have a lot of fun, but we also want to make sure that we are bringing value to our nail techs and also to the public. So Zach, would you fill us in on?
Yeah. And there's a lot more specifics we could talk regarding the pedicure and more specifics on like how we would like to see kind of the bridge between medical and foot care evolve, I think more specifically in the plans. But today, I think the conversation we want to have is around technology and education. And one of our concerns as we've looked at this as a business model, and we've gone through with Roxana all of the important outlines and documents and everything that you have to have in place, the pages and pages and pages.
And pages.
And pages. This is not the fun stuff, is that technology and its way that it plays a part in this doesn't feel like in the nail industry, it's kept up with how some of technology and education is changing in other industries. And our concern from just a business model is looking at this saying, okay, if educators and individuals have to be in the room together for all of this education time, we don't think it's sustainable from a business model. Sorry, I don't mean to put that on anybody else who's opening a school. Secondly, we don't think it's realistic for like a working mom who has to work a day job and still wants to get education and somehow has to fit that in a space where an educator can be in the room together. And so one of the things we're obviously seeing in all sorts of industries is on-demand education is a growing thing. And so we'd like to just start a conversation around like, how can we continue to push the boundaries and the edges and obviously play inside of the policies and procedures that are put in place to protect not only the students, but the integrity of the system while still saying, hey, technology is a growing thing. Can we do this in a way that allows more flexibility and freedom while still protects and keeps that integrity intact? So I think kind of our biggest question here today is as you all have had these discussions and we understand that what you approve in terms of one school impacts forever how you're going to approve moving forward. How can we continue to push on technology? How can we continue to push on flexibility in terms of education hours? The time when those could be done? Is there ways that we could do more flexible educator-led teaching in a way that I could log on at 1 a.m. because that's when I can do my education, but maybe a teacher can't be there to proxy that at that time. And as we're reading the way it's currently laid out, that's just not there. And it doesn't allow for that flexibility. And that's concerning for us as we hear feedback from future nail techs as a part of the industry.
And before you answer that question, as we are developing a relationship with you, is really, I'm speaking boldly on behalf of a giant industry. But I can say, having traveled literally the world, that there is a great need for reform, at least with nails. I cannot speak on behalf of hair. I am the nail girl, but there needs to be some type of change. The way people learn is different. Having somebody sit for 8 hours in a classroom there's a lot of reasons why these nail techs, they're creators. So sitting just in a structured atmosphere is not leading to growth, and it's also not leading to overall a business model that's sustainable. They're not learning the business skills or the interpersonal skills. A lot of people leave this industry not because their hands hurt or because their feet hurt. It's because their hearts hurt. And I'm going to let us just sit in that, because nail techs, cosmetologists, masseuse, all of those, we hear a lot of stuff all day long and it's heavy, but we don't talk about how to process it. And then before you know it, we're not taking lunch breaks. We're binge eating when we get home, and it's this perpetual cycle that's not helping anyone. It's not helping the consumer, the public, and it's not helping the technician on the other side of that. We're recognizing this and coming before you to say, we do believe that change is needed. We're going to do an academy, whether it's accredited or not, but we would love to partner with Tennessee to just start the conversation on making sure what you value is still being done, but also seeing it through a different lens. We don't want to play catch up anymore. We want to lead something different, and we want to make a stronger technician out of this that is able to provide the emotional business as well as the aesthetic part of their business and their career, so that they're successful, and that also that the public, of course, is why we're all here, is also safe and protected as well. So if you have questions for us, we would really like to open that conversation to say, is this something that you would like to continue to have conversations with us about, of how we can really set the bar for online education? We don't expect this to be cheap. We don't expect this to be a overnight. We are developing something that we think will take 2 years, but I'm here to say this is a legacy thing. And I know that you're all here and have given your time because you want to see some type of change and be a part of that. We do too. We don't want a Band-Aid fix. We just want to introduce ourselves and say, we want to have the tough conversations and lead towards something stronger and better for everyone. You can ask me questions now. Let's have fun now.
Chairman Gillihan, I will turn it over to you and mute myself. That way we can, you all can have all the mics. Ron, your mic's not on. Let me check.
Okay, there we go. New system there. Thank you for coming in, Erica and Zach. I appreciate the things you've said. As you folks probably would guess, education is my passion, and as it is most of these, if all these people on this board, we appreciate education so much, and congratulations on 16,000 foot space in Columbia. That's great. That's fantastic. You have touched on a few really interesting points and key facts here, not the least of which is, how is technology going to impact the future of education? Of course, most of us live this every day in our own segments of the industry. I'm very fond of saying to my own students that, we've got to keep one toe in the past for tradition to see, where are our roots and where's our foundation. But you got to have 2 whole feet really going forward in the future. In the last many years, this board has undertaken to move into the next generation, things such as simply having brick and mortar schools, to now allowing some segments of electronic delivery and different modalities of reaching our students. We recognize how important that is, without beleaguering that point too much. And you touched on it just briefly. One of the things I think that has been a stumbling block to all the presenters over the years who have approached with these type of questions is integrity. The integrity of the delivery of the programs to the students, the integrity of the students' interactions with the schools, accountability. And that's not just saying that students have to show up and do their work. The thing that we look at a lot of the times is the fact that, our mandate is to protect the public, and that's protecting the public receiving services. Obviously, you've got to know how to do the work, but it's also looking at it from the point of view that students are part of the public too, and our schools actually delivering what they're promising to the students, because without that segment, the whole thing breaks. We typically have not approved programs that were on demand because there was no educator present to interact with that student, which we think is critically important. I use technology in my own schools at every way that we can that's approvable. I'm all about moving forward in that. And if you didn't notice, and again, my apologies for being a little bit tardy this morning. I detest being late. But I joined the meeting electronically, just like so many of our public watching right now. So we really embrace this, and we've worked very diligently to try to carve out pathways to wherever we could that would ensure the integrity of the education and the outcomes that we need. So if you have some specific ideas or proposals for that, I'm sure we would love to hear in detail some of that stuff this morning as just as a general presentation. I'm not sure it's the appropriate moment or time, but if you have that stuff, I'm sure we would appreciate getting some of that input from you. Okay.
I think that's, and not to speak out of it, that's kind of our question. You know, we run a business in a way that's maybe an alternative model to other brick and mortars. We run mostly an e-commerce business, an education business outside of like the formal education system. And so we're willing to do things differently, but we don't want to spend 2 years investing in video content and technology that would allow accountability for logging in. You know, let's be honest, I could sit in a classroom and be on my phone and get no more out of an education experience than I would behind my computer. You just know that I'm sitting in the classroom at that point versus sitting at home. Our question is, what if we created some systems that answered some of those questions using technology, maybe in a non-traditional way? But we don't want to have to get all the way through the business planning portion of that and creation of that to get an approval on it for you to say, no, that doesn't work. And now we spent 2 years building something, and obviously the resources that would go into that. That's really it. I don't know that we have specifics in terms of, oh, we could use this system or build this on this platform, but it really is there a willingness to even entertain, hey, if we check these boxes of accountability and safety, and how are we going to make sure, you know, we still do this? Well, we can do all those things with technology. We've seen that, but somebody'd have to build it, and maybe nobody's built it to this point.
And to say, like, we have lots of ideas. We've been dreaming and talking about this for a long time. There's no way we took the endeavor of buying a 16,000 square foot without having some kind of business plan. But the biggest thing was wanting to know from you guys, having first shown our face here, is what we need to show you to show that this is something we can move forward, even if it's like a hybrid system where there's on-demand classes with checks and balances using things like Thinkific, where also there's office hours, just kind of like a traditional like college where, hey, if you have questions about structure or acrylic overlay, there's going to be somebody at this time, really creating a model, Ron, where people are taking more ownership of their education, but we're also making it more aesthetically pleasing and giving them understanding that the way people are learning now, especially in the beauty industry, is more hands-on learning. And that attention that's 3 seconds long is, we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have all these things for the younger generation that we understand how they're thinking and how they're going to learn better. And we want to use what we know already in education and build a program so that the public is protected, because in the state of Tennessee is 600 hours. That, in my opinion, is a lot of hours to keep somebody intrigued and wanting to continue to learn, and making sure that it's been embedded in them of how that they can do these services and actually make money to protect the public, but also to financially be able to be successful after those hours. So we do have lots of ideas. I guess the first thing, since this is our first date, is what we need to show you to show that, that we're serious and that this is sustainable, so we don't spend hours building something that it's a hard no. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I don't want you to see that we haven't come prepared, but more in a spirit of what we need to show you. So when it's like, yeah, what about this? We have a quick, this is the way we would handle this situation.
I don't want to put Becky on the spot, but we've been up here for many years together, and I think to be honest, we are very open to technology as a board, and we would love to see more technology in this space. And Becky can speak to her personal experiences of reviewing how many online platforms have
A
you
lot.
gone through. Our dilemma is that our licenses are based on hours, right? You know that's every state in this country, and it is what it is, whether you like it or not. Unfortunately, I don't know, and again, I can't speak for Becky because she lives this every day. I don't know that we've seen a platform presented that meets the hour requirement for the students, right? And you can speak to this, but from what I've experienced on this board, those have been presented, and we've all found ways to skip through all the content and get all the hours and take a 4-hour class in 20 minutes and not meet that requirement. But I would love to see a system that would allow that, especially for me, for the theory, right? I live in the barber world. I would love to see my employees take part of their education, especially their theory, online with really dynamic teaching. I think that is absolutely an opportunity. But, until we all feel comfortable with a system that can track and prevent folks from skipping through content, our hands are kind of tied.
If you could work out those issues, that's phenomenal. I'm great. And I think that what you presented is amazing, and I want to take some of your classes, to be quite honest. Now, to the bad news. I think there is a lot of value in having an instructor be able to view what you're doing at the time that you're doing it. I have students that come into the school all the time that have a YouTube University degree. And they come to me and they think, I know what I'm doing. And, there's nothing that I can teach them at that point. But then seeing that they're holding a nail drill at an incorrect angle, it's going to, eat straight through that nail. And I never would have seen that had they been on the other side of a screen. So being able to work through things like that, like it is about the safety to the public, and I can't see your safety to the public on the other side of a screen. So that's one of the things that, when we say we need an instructor to be on the other side of that screen visibly with that student, it's not just to make sure that, yes, they're clicking through the content, because you're absolutely right. They may be clicking through the content, but also have a cell phone playing a video. I totally get that, and I understand where you're coming from with that, but I still can't see those safety things. I still can't pick up those bad habits that we need to break before you go into a salon and hurt someone. I can't tell you how to build your business model, but something that you may want to think about, like I feel like you're creating dynamic content and curriculum, but maybe you need this to be at a service center where there's a licensed instructor there delivering your content, but then also there to supervise their work. So I don't know if that's something that you all would consider. I don't know how you're going to get around, having somebody to visibly see what they're doing. And that's just my thought. I love the content. I don't think that you should just drop what you're doing, because I think it's amazing. But
I appreciate all that feedback, and I can definitely understand. My question would be regarding like the FaceTime is it possible that like the student could record themselves? So you're right, you're not addressing it right then and there, but they're actually being mindful to say, okay, I'm going to start recording. I'm going to show the different angles and techniques.
I mean, that would be better than not being observed at all.
Sure.
But then again, are we sitting through an hour-long class of them applying acrylic nails and they're doing it wrong the whole time, when I could have caught it in the first 5 minutes and said, hey, you're doing this wrong, let's try this technique, rather than that, so that we start it. Because once they're building those, it's going to be muscle memory. So, if you're telling them after the fact, like you're doing this incorrectly after the fact, are they already building those bad habits that we're going to have to then go back and break? I don't know. I'm not going to say that it can't be done.
Sure.
There would have to be a lot of work on that side to make me feel comfortable that a student could sit behind a screen and learn what they needed.
No, I completely understand. I think one of the hard things is when navigating these new waters is that there's a lot of instructors that, in my opinion, they don't know what they're doing. And that makes it very difficult when they're teaching that next generation. And it's just like, no, that's actually completely wrong. And knowing that's what we're overcoming and like getting good educators. A lot of people who have been successful doing nails, they don't want to take a pay cut and make $14 an hour. And schools, they don't have that bandwidth to say, I can pay somebody enough that I'm getting really good talent. Now, that's not the case for every school, but that is across the board. It's really disheartening to see how little that schools are valuing their teachers because they're getting subpar, in my opinion. So my hope is with an online academy with checks and balances and filming and using some of these things that are also going to help their business is that the education as a whole, there's more ownership of people who really want to work hard and see it elevated versus, okay, yeah, we have a minimum wage. We just went through it. The education is how do we hybrid this so that the talent is better, but then also the eyes that are correcting it are more aligned of what the community needs.
I'd like to share, I've been in the nail industry for over 35 years. And I know, right? And yeah, there's definitely been some advancement. I don't know what they're saying as far as trying to shorten the amount of time that you get your license. From my experience, when I started, it was like 200 hours for me to get my license. So that was nothing. And when I came out, I knew almost very little. So I spent many, many hours in continued education in order to become excellent at what I do. And so I feel like the 600 is still a little compared to what you can achieve. And what you can bring to the table is all of that continued education to create some type of way where they could be excellent stepping out instead of having to do a ton of continued education, which is still important because it keeps your energy going, it keeps your creativity growing. But to try and incorporate that, and then when it comes to the practical side, when you're doing drills and stuff, you know how dangerous that can be. And so I see what you're saying as far as trying to incorporate the medical aspect in that as well. So that would be some type of education on what can happen if you do drill into the nail. But you do, for the safety aspect, you really need somebody right there so they can say, oh, or for me, the way I learned is I did it on myself. And that way I could feel what it feels like to trim a cuticle too close or, that kind of thing. But I think that definitely there is some dialogue on where we could fine tune and refine the program, especially the dry manicures, which are a lot more longevity with polish versus a natural manicure. But yeah, I think what you're doing is great. I don't know about the medical aspect, and the drill is my main concern because that is where you start getting into more medical stuff with the drill.
Can I ask just clarity? It feels like maybe more of the hangup is on the practicum side of the hours versus the theory. Like we probably could get there together on the theory hours as long as we had those checks and balances, couldn't fast forward content, et cetera. But maybe we're not quite there yet on the practicum hours. Is that kind of what we're hearing in reflection?
I think those are the ones that I'm the most concerned about are the practical hours. The theory hours, if you can figure out a way to make it happen, we just have not seen anything that has worked.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, and I'm thinking of, I'm not in nails, right? But if you apply this to barbering, I mean, I employ lots of people, and I can tell you during COVID when none of the students touched a person for 2 years, a year. Well, we had employees who were at schools that did not take clients for almost 2 years. And I'll tell you, that was not an education for what we realistically do. And you know that. I mean, I don't know how you can have a license in this industry with any amount of hours and not have actually worked in person on a client. So I would be hard pressed to approve any program that had no in-person practical component to it.
I have a couple of questions for you, and then we'll probably add on to what Amy just said. In your proposal for your school, you've already located a space. So are you intending to go ahead and open as a brick and mortar school under the traditional type settings and then create and roll out a program that incorporates the technology, or are you really wanting to just make that the base for a complete technology program?
That's a great question. When we're running the numbers for 600 hours and getting enough students and wanting to make sure we have very successful educators, it was really hard to make the numbers work, like really hard, especially for like the area we're in Columbia and seeing what the prices were around us. So it made it a little more difficult thinking about the brick and mortar. We've played with some different ideas of people coming to us and like doing like the technical, or excuse me, the theory remote, and then actually like doing the hands-on, like in person. However, we have the building and we know that we're going to build some kind of academy. Now, how that's aligned, it might just be continuing education that where people want to learn more business sense, if they want to learn more about cuticle or dry manicuring, they just come and take additional education. One of the things that we were looking at for like, not just with on demand, but what was that word when somebody has to be in the class? Synchronistic. That was a new word for me. Synchronistic is that we found out that it had to be an educator in Tennessee, not something. So we work with affiliates all over the world who are like literally the best. And it was disheartening. And we were trying to figure out like, well, how do we partner with people who are amazing at their trade and get them this education, but they're not going to move to Tennessee. They can't have dual nail tech license. Is there a way that if somebody is overseeing them, does it need to be somebody from Tennessee, or does a educator in Ohio or Florida, because they have showed that they are an expert in the field versus somebody who, I don't want to belittle it because there's incredible educators, but across the board, how do we get the creme de la creme so that after 600 hours, you're still not like trying to figure it out, that you feel actually empowered and ready to take on clients versus, well, I need to charge $20 because I don't know if the nails are going to stay on, that we're building that confidence because we're giving them a higher, superior program because we've been able to lean on technology in office hours and not needed to just keep butts in the chair to make sure that our overhead's being covered.
I would suggest that you train them.
Which ones?
The educators that you're speaking of, if those are the ones that you want to use, then you should train them the way that, make sure that those educators, if you don't like the educators that are being provided through the state, then you train the ones the way that you would have them to train your future students.
Is our current law, is it a law or a rule? This is where I always get confused. Difference. Right now to get hours in the state of Tennessee, you have to take those hours by a licensed Tennessee educator.
Yes.
Right? Who could be anywhere in the country, right? If you're doing synchronous learning, Ron lives in Illinois, but he's licensed as an instructor in Tennessee. Students could still get hours from Ron in Tennessee, but he has to have an active Tennessee instructor license.
That is correct.
Is that a law or a
It's
rule?
law.
That's a law.
Yeah.
So,
But obtaining your instructor license to our members that are instructors and school owners, you just meet the requirements for the basic license and then the instructor's 300 hours and 2 exams. So it's not attainable, but the hours must be provided by an instructor. That's who submits our hours.
yeah, I've run into this problem with my opportunity with my business. I have really amazing barbers. They have no interest in getting an instructor's license. And until they would have an instructor license, I couldn't offer anyone hours. Just like Ron can't have an amazing barber at his school. He can have students, but they can't legally get hours. That's why, that's where it's at the state legislature level. So call your local representative.
But that is doable. At least we can have the conversation. You apply for a license for instructor, right? That could be obtained, especially if they in their state have that basic license. Then it's a matter of getting the instructor license. And
so if you lived in another state and you had an instructor license there, you could apply here for a Tennessee license. Do you have to have an address here? I've never asked this question.
No.
You do not. You can live in another state and apply for an educator license here and have it and be able to offer hours to people in Tennessee with that license, regardless of residency.
Right. Right. The statute is clear, and it's the statute, and Joe is wonderful. It's 62-4108, and it is you cannot practice or teach without a license. And so that falls real clear, but the address is irrelevant for this particular type of license.
Amy, I'm licensed in multiple states, and
Of course you are.
For instance, in Georgia, the Georgia instructor's license, once you're licensed in that state, I could slip across the border and teach in a Georgia school.
Or you could offer online classes synchronously to students who are in Georgia.
If Georgia authorized that.
If Georgia
But if he
authorized
moved
that.
to Georgia, he could do that in Tennessee.
Vice versa.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I hadn't really thought about that.
So all they need is a license in the state.
Okay, I have a question. Being here this long, this just came to me. So if I'm a nail tech and I want to be an instructor, but I don't have a cosmetology license, what would I do?
You become a manicure instructor.
So there is a manicure instructor?
Absolutely.
I've
We have
never known
hundreds.
Okay.
Natural hairstyling instructors, aesthetics instructors, barber and cosmetology. All the disciplines have instructors that can teach their specific, such as your case, or the big barber and cosmetology.
Okay, good to know.
The synchronous and asynchronous is, I think, one of the big triggers here. In my experience in education, I personally believe, this is Ronnie's belief, okay? I'm not speaking as a chairman here. This is my personal belief. I think that there is room for on-hand physical applications as well as a mix of technology. I think there has to be a balance there, and where we have oftentimes found, and I want to congratulate you and really thank you for doing something here. Many times, you say, we don't sit here and just propose new things that come up. A lot of times we have to wait until someone presents an idea so that then we can take it up and act on it, okay? Too many times, a school will just kind of drop a package in front of us and say, here, this is what we've decided we're going to do. Please approve it. And they haven't addressed these issues you're inquiring about. So you're actually getting things in the correct order so that we can answer some of those type questions. As was already mentioned, we can't write your business model for you, and we really can't tell you what to do with that. You have to do that, and that's the risk of business. What I think I can assure you is that the board is open-minded and that we are absolutely hopeful that at some point in time, someone will come up with a workable solution that they can present to us in a way that can answer the integrity issues. Amy is right. We have never found a platform yet that wasn't able to be manipulated, okay? That speaks to the integrity of the pupil as well as to the internal systems of the business. That has got to be resolved. There are technologies, and we all understand universities across the world are doing things online. I don't know what they do in terms of security to maintain some of those integrity issues, but I do know that there's a difference between the clock hour programs and credit hour programs. Okay, it's the physicality versus the observation. The quality of the educator you've touched on. I really think that Becky really nailed that on the head. If the educators that are available are not meeting our standards, as a business owner, we have to require higher standards. We have to stand up and say, listen, this is how we expect you to teach to achieve our goals as a business. Now, that may mean that the labor pool becomes very small. But in time, the economic system is going to show that the better prepared, the better quality the educators are, well, there's some compensation tied to that. And then that comes back to profitability of businesses. It's just economics, guys. I don't want to get off into that. At the end of the day, you have raised some really important questions, and I know that you want us to sit here and tell you, check this box and this box and this box. At this point in this conversation, that's not something I believe that we as a board can do. We can give you a broad outline and say, we expect integrity, we expect control, we expect the students to receive the education they're supposed to get. I'm a hands-on person. There are a lot of different learning styles. However, whenever we are dealing with the public, when we are laying hands on human beings, we do cross some lines, so that something as simple as how much pressure do you apply on that drill is important. That's a subtlety that it could be at least extremely difficult to impart online. How do you describe to somebody, hey, this and that? By the way, who is going to be there if that student is doing all their nail work on a mannequin's hand? Okay, maybe. But whenever they need to practice on a human being, which I don't believe is a requirement at this point, but when they need to practice on a human being to develop that sense of touch and pressure and those kind of soft subjects, who's going to be there to assist that student if they do go too far, if they injure that client? A cut cuticle is not comfortable to anybody. Never mind issues like bacteria, nail fungus, all these type of issues. So there's a lot that goes into this that sometimes really does need some really hands-on application. So if that means more of a hybrid, if that means something else, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying what some of my concerns would be. Okay.
As he's introducing live clients to this, we also have to think about the environment that they're putting the live clients in. Are they bringing them into their homes, and is that a sanitary area? So that's just one of those other levels that is to consider.
Just by way of one more clarification, would it be appropriate as we get into like technology systems and trying to check some of those boxes, we don't want to film 300 hours of content, put it on a system, bring it to you for approval, and you say, we're not there yet. We'd rather film a few hours of content, put it on a system, bring it to you and say, hey, we're developing this. Are we headed in the right direction? Would that feel appropriate, or is it in terms of, or, maybe work directly with Roxana on that? I don't, just in terms of next steps. And again, I'm probably talking more theory hours now in terms of I know we still have some concerns on some of the other side.
Sure. Well, again, as a board, we have to be careful that we're not really trying to influence what you're doing. It's your business. It's not our business. I think you're on the right track. I think that, again, sometimes you want to build a mock-up before you build the whole thing. So at the risk of doing work and repeating work or not getting it right, that's always there too. If you had something you wanted to present, I think we would be happy to take a look at it. And if we see at this stage that there's an issue, well, that's back to your drawing board. If you get past that stage, maybe something else will open up that becomes a concern. So there's always the unforeseen concern that we have to be careful about. So to say that at stage one, it's all great. Stage two might have some issues. So there is some development that has to go on there. Okay.
I challenge you to take it to a high school IT class and give them the log on and tell them to break the system. So you'll know if it can be broken, and if it can be broken, can you fix it? So that was a challenge I issued to my sons, and he broke the system several times.
So folks, I don't know that we've answered all your questions. I don't really know what your full expectation was here today, except to begin that conversation. And again, I'm so happy that you come to us in the beginning, so that maybe you won't invest, a lot of time and money and hours in something that is broken from the beginning. So with a little bit of this guidance, I hope that it helps you. I look forward to you coming back and maybe having something concrete for us to look at. I think you're off in a good direction at least. And again, congratulations on your facilities and good luck with that. It's a difficult industry to get started in. And I did hear you say accredited. You want to be accredited. Okay. Okay. That's another conversation.
Yes.
Good luck with that.
Members, before we continue, any other questions before we lose them? And I will continue, of course, to work very closely with them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Miss Roxanne, I know that we were hard to get started, but I did want to take just a minute and recognize our schools that's here. Can I have somebody from the school?
And
identify who
Becky
you
did an
are?
outstanding job.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
Mr. Walken
Becky
did.
did. I
Wonderful.
did. Once
Thank
we had quorum, I got us started. I do want to take a minute, members, and introduce you to my new boss, our Assistant Commissioner, Reed Witcher is here. Reed, you want to come on up?
Hi, here. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course. This feels very formal for no prepared remarks, but thank you all for your service to the board. I do want to introduce Maggie Smitha, who coincidentally happens to know the previous speaker who was asking questions of the board. Laura Costin served as the executive assistant to the previous assistant commissioner. Maggie is supporting me, so you'll hear from Maggie periodically. Again, don't have anything prepared to say, but just wanted to thank you for your service to the board. I know you all are in great hands with Roxana and John and Joe. So if there's ever anything I can do, please let me know.
Thank you so much for coming down and joining us today. Hope you think we're doing a good job.
Thank you,
Certainly,
Reed.
certainly. Thank you.
And we think Roxanne is great.
Oh,
Thank you.
I don't know how anyone could have the Roxana experience and think otherwise. So
Thank you. Thank you, Reed. Thank you so much for stopping by. Okay, members, thank you for all your questions. This was really, really very helpful. And like you, their product is different and interesting, and we'll keep working with it. We have before you our first school being presented. You do have these documents. This is Mr. Antonio Pri on your meeting items. This starts, pardon me, on page 3. He is participating through Teams in order to answer any questions that you have. This school is located in Memphis. You have before you the application, floor plan, enrollment agreement, catalog, and contingency plan that were presented timely. Chairman Gillihan, I'll turn it over to you. And if you have any questions, Mr. Pri is on the Teams call.
Thank you, Roxana.
Thank you, sir.
This is a full Barber College.
It is. It is a full Barber College in the Memphis area. Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Pri. Thank you for joining us and thank you for waiting. Can you tell us a little bit about your school?
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me. I've been a barber in Tennessee for 22 years of experience, and I'm excited about the new program we're rolling out. I got my head of administrator at the Barber College alongside of me, and we're here to answer any question that you all have for us. We're excited to work with the youth as well as second chancellor looking for a new career in the exciting barbering industry. Thank you.
Thank you again. Is your school intending to do any of the apprentice programs?
No, sir.
Okay. And you're not intending to do any type of a hybrid or any type of electronics?
No, sir.
Okay, great. In your application, in your documentation here, I think that you've done a pretty good job on hitting all the topics that I normally have stand out. You do have individual student schedules listed as well as beginning and ending dates, so that's all good. You have your refund policies all listed out. I'm not sure if I noticed, are you charging your students an overtime fee anywhere in your documents in case they don't finish on time?
Yes, sir. We charging $70 per hour.
Okay. Could you give me an idea where I can find that in your paperwork, in your application or your enrollment agreement, excuse me?
I'm sorry, sir. No, sir. We isn't charging for overtime hours. This was the hours just at a standard rate. I'm sorry.
Okay. If you're going to charge them any type of an overtime charge, and I'm using that term loosely, then it needs to be spelled out in the enrollment agreement so that they know that they could be obligated to that.
All right.
In your acknowledgments that the student has read and received copies of their enrollment agreement, there is the provision that says they have to receive that before making any payment. That statement, I couldn't find that in your documentation, but it should say that they've received this prior to making any payments or words to that effect. And I believe I'm looking at page 5 in your documents, if that's your signature page.
Ron, his page 13 is our page 20 that has the I've read and understand, but it doesn't say anything about the payment.
The payment
But he's got it
component,
in
yes.
both places.
Yeah, I didn't see it in either place there. You have many of your policies that are listed in there. You should have a policy that says any student who pays you money is going to receive a receipt from the school indicating that they've paid money. That policy is missing.
Yes, sir.
Unless you can direct that to me.
No, sir. We'll add it.
Okay. Okay. And also, could you, if you don't mind, could you discuss your teach out policy with me just a bit? Can you explain how that's supposed to work?
Yes, sir. We have collaborated with Cosmetology Barber College. It's approximately maybe about 5 miles from where we'll be located at, and they're excited to have us.
So you've discussed with them close out issues, and they're willing to take students if you needed to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you help me locate that in your documentation?
It's page 23 of ours.
23 on average.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just their one-page contingency. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Thank you. Are you going to be teaching the instructor program as well?
I plan on.
Okay. I do believe I saw that you had the requirement for 3 years of service in here, so I think that's good.
13.
Yep. Okay. That is the only questions that I had. It appeared your curriculum came straight from the state board. So
Thank you so much for that. You have no idea how much I love that. I like to call that rip off and repeat. So please just, by all means. The only thing that I noted in here is on your page 2, you've got an area where you will list their class times. And it says Tuesday through Saturday. I noticed that you are open more than the allowable times for a student to attend school. And I'm sure that your students won't attend like 8 to 8 and that you will write that in. But because you are going to write it in rather than say, it's 8 to 3, Monday through Thursday or whatever, I'd like for you to put in there the maximum allowable number of hours per week. So either give them this is going to be your schedule and have that printed in the book, or say just under that chart, a maximum allowable number of hours that they can attend per week. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I mean, it does say that they can, that they're going to attend 40 hours per week, but if a student asks, like, can I attend every day 8 to 8? I just want to make sure that they understand that there's a reason that you can only attend a maximum amount. And I think that that would work. Otherwise, it looks great.
Just a notation for you to make sure you understand, there is a maximum number of hours. I believe it's 48 hours per week. Also, there's a minimum number of hours. So whenever you're looking at your part-time students, they have to meet the minimum number of hours as well. So while the minimum is not specified in here, I just want to make sure you were aware of that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Members, do we have any other questions?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to approve with those changes.
Okay. We have a motion to approve with those changes. We have a second. We have a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Congratulations and good luck with your school.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Pre. And if you're not speaking, you can turn the mic off again, then that'll free up an extra mic, but I think we're good. We had a motion by Amy Tanksley and a second by Monica Lemons to approve this school pending a couple of revisions, and those need to be sent to me, Mr. Pre, when you have a chance, and then we'll coordinate that inspection. Members, I think at this point, we're doing just a field inspector unless we have a reason to need to send a board member. So we'll move forward with that. Thank you so much. Next on your iPads, this school presentation starts on page 24. This is Glam and Grit School of Cosmetology. Ms. Sarah Salmon is participating and actually here with us, and so she's been very patient as the meeting has taken a couple of different schools to present. This school is located in Murfreesboro. You have before you the application, floor plan, enrollment agreement, catalog, and contingency plan, all presented timely. Chairman Gillihan, I'll turn that over to you.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Your school is going to be in Murfreesboro.
Correct.
Okay. Please tell us a little bit about your school.
Good morning. I am Sarah Solomon. This is my husband, Chris Solomon, and I am the owner of the future Glam and Grit School of Cosmetology. Currently, I am the owner and operator of Glam and Grit Salon Suites in Las Casas. With 15 years of experience as a cosmetologist and a childhood spent assisting in my mother's salon, the idea of establishing my own school has been a long-held aspiration that is now becoming a reality. My background includes coaching in figure skating and dance, and I'm eager to apply my expertise in this new venture. Glam and Grit is an ongoing enrollment program offering flexible scheduling. I graduated from a similar institution where I had the opportunity to study alongside a diverse group of individuals. The flexible scheduling accommodated both high school students and working professionals, including parents who could only attend when their children were in school. Glam and Grit is dedicated to building a strong community where our students are not only prepared for graduation, but also inspired to return for further education and growth. Thank you.
Thank you again. I'm glad to hear that you kind of grew up in the industry here a little bit. Looking at your application, I really didn't have a lot of questions. It seems like you had a pretty thorough application process as well. Let's see here. I had a note on something that may just be a misinterpretation on my part. You've got your student kit listed with a price, and then you have sales tax listed on that, which is fine. Not sure what, if Murfreesboro has a different sales tax rate than other places, but not sure what the sales tax rate is in Murfreesboro if they have something local. I don't normally see a sales tax listed in there, so I understand why you put it there. It just stuck out in my mind. My note also says that, as I was reviewing that, you had some fees that were kind of listed in different places within your enrollment agreement. We generally like to see any kind of fee listed in one place so that a student can, if they're looking at that table or if they're looking at your outline of fees, as we mentioned on the last one, for the overtime charge.
I wrote this 3 times and we used to have that in there. We just noticed that it's missing, so we'll definitely put that in there.
Yeah. And a lot of times we see these where schools will put various charges. I guess as you're writing the document, it comes to mind and you kind of put it in that spot. Keeping wherever it is within your documents is fine, but if you still need to have that kind of that roundup where everything is listed at least in one place at one spot. So, okay. Can you direct me to where your transfer policy is on receiving transfer students or not? Page 31, thank you. Thank you. Okay, mark that one off.
This is all in person.
Yes.
Are you I may have asked you this already, are you intended to do any electronic classes?
Not at this time.
Apprenticeships, things like that?
Not right now.
And you are going to offer the instructor as well?
Yes.
Okay, I saw your declarations on that. The next question I really had about this is concerning your teach out policy. Can you talk to me about that a little bit and explain it to me?
We hope to never close. We always want to fulfill the obligation of being able to teach our students fully. We do have a list of other local schools that we would help to get them enrolled in. I also
Page
have
48, I apologize. I figured I'd give you the page. So.
I also have a salon myself, so if we need to move them over there to get them to finish their hours and the things that they need to do, we will do that also.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's exactly the part that we need to talk about. In a education scenario, it would not be proper for you to place students in a salon or a shop to complete their education unless they were operating under an apprentice type program that was identified at the time they enrolled. Okay. So that portion of your teach out would not be acceptable.
Okay.
Okay. If you were accepting somebody in a teach out scenario like that, the only way that could work in the salon is if they were an apprentice student and the completer, whoever was supervising them, had 10 years experience. Okay.
Is that something we could change later on and add apprenticeship? And then at that point,
Sure.
would be acceptable? Okay.
Sure, you can add an apprentice program whenever you like, but I think the key here is that the student has to be enrolled as the apprentice when they start.
Gotcha.
Okay, so they can change back and forth.
Mhm.
But that one provision right there, all the rest of it looked okay in my mind. But that one provision, I was afraid you were going to kind of go down that bad road, and that wouldn't be okay. All right. Ms. Becky?
The only question that I had was about your flexible schedule.
Mhm.
Actually, I have a couple of questions. Anyway, flexible schedule. It says 9 to 16 months, but we need to
Mhm.
identify these students as full-time or part-time. So, and give them a schedule to follow. So I'll need you to work in that area. If it had been like 9 to 10 months, I could have understood that,
Mhm.
like that's a full-time student. But with it being such a wide gap of 9 to 16 months, it appears that you're going to have some that are full-time and some that are part-time, which also they need to be identified as full or part-time.
Mhm.
They also need their records to be stored separately, so full-time and part-time. And then they'll have to have a schedule. So I'm not sure where the schedule was, but you'll need to identify their schedule for them, like you're expecting them to show up on these particular days. The other one was the note about that an instructor must be licensed for 3 years. I did not see that in there.
What's my page 7? But
Okay.
Page 30 for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, that was my notes.
If I can, I did have one other thing that popped up for me. On page 39 of our documents and page 12 for you, I believe, ma'am, you have some information regarding an apprentice program here.
repeat that one more time, sorry.
On page 39 for us and page 12 of your documents, under the heading of attire, you have some information on number 2 regarding the apprentice program.
We'll remove that. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Did you understand what Ms. Becky was referring to in the student schedule, that she'd like to see the actual start time, the end time each day
Yes.
for
So
the program
we
individually?
plan on having a certain specific time for class hours that's everybody has to go to unless they have already passed the class. And they were going to basically create their own hours. And so they have to come up and tell me, these are the hours I'm going to be. Obviously, there's a minimum and there's a maximum, and go with that. So depending on their maximum, if they can only go 20 something hours, then we'll consider that part-time.
Yeah. Just so I'll make sure you understand, whenever they're setting their schedule, somewhere in that enrollment agreement, you're going to need a statement that says, Susie student is going to start class at 8 a.m. And her day is going to be finished at 2 p.m. or 8 p.m. It doesn't matter, whatever what your schedules are. But it needs to be spelled out individually for each day when that student's supposed to be there. So if the inspector comes in and looks at your records, and he can look at that and say, okay, she's supposed to be here. You should have 15 students here under the schedules. Where are they? Okay. Good. All right.
Our plan for that was to allow the student 2 weeks ahead of time to submit the schedule for their availability based off of their other jobs or school or what have you. I guess school would always have a set schedule, but another job, if you were a waitress or something of that nature, your schedule is always changing. So it's in the documents that they are to submit a schedule 2 weeks before that week. Is that something that's permissible for them to come 1 to 6 on a Tuesday this week and from 8 to 2 the next Tuesday?
I think where you're going to run into difficulties is that whenever I sign this contract, it says I'm going to be here for this 2 weeks from these hours. Whenever they're ready to change that schedule, that's legally that would require, I believe, I'm not trying to give you legal advice, I believe that would require an amendment or an addendum to their contract. So they'd be constantly changing their contracts if you're looking at it from that direction. I think it would probably present some difficulties for the inspector to know who and where and keeping up with those kind of things. I think that it's okay. You can students can change schedules, but there needs to be some documentation each time they do. Otherwise, you're going to have students who are going to come up to you, trust me, at some point, and they're going to say, no, I was here that day, or I was not here that day. And, you have no way to go back and say when they were. So
needs to be
I
documented
would
and signed.
strongly caution you, well, I'm going to tell you that you need to have a statement in there that says, this is my schedule every day. And if you're going to have it so that they can change it every 2 weeks or every so often, then you need to have something in there that indicates that. And then the follow-up documentation to prove it each time they do. Okay.
The
And then
schedule would
that's-
be submitted in writing every week, essentially, or every 2 weeks for them.
Well, and that's where when the inspectors come, right, they're gonna look at your part-time enrollments, they're gonna look at your full-time enrollments, and then they're gonna look on your floor and say, where are all these students?
Yeah.
I think we can speak from experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are a lot of file folders and not a lot of students. So
It could also be an educational nightmare to make sure that if you're planning to teach bacteriology on a set date and that student's not there, then you're going to repeat those classes over and over again to ensure that everybody was taught what they need to or what they needed to receive. So that's going to be a lot of work
Yeah.
on you.
I graduated from a school like that. It was, it worked. It actually worked. It was really good. But yes, more documentation, and that needs to be in our enrollment, that they understand that.
yeah, I mean, one of the things that I will just note, right, our inspectors anymore don't have any cosmetology experience.
Mm.
So most of them, I shouldn't say, a few of them still do, but they're looking at the law and they're looking at documentation, and either it's there or it's not. There's not, in my opinion, not a lot of understanding of how things sort of work behind the scenes. So having all your documentation buttoned up is very helpful for everyone. And
If
for
I-
Roxana, I should say that
Right.
too, right?
If I could give you a personal example,
Mhm.
whenever the inspector walks into my school to inspect us, the first thing he says is, Mr. Ron, where's your license? It's hanging where it should be. And then he does his thing. He comes into the office and says, how many students do you have scheduled to be here today? And then, of course, he has the records from the state based on what you have submitted in your monthly hours reports and those kind of things. And then he's going to tell you to pull those records. And he's going to ask you to show that they're clocking in and out and how many are on the clock, how many are now supposed to be on the clock, because he will say, pull this number of students' files. I want to see their schedules. And he looks in that contract to see, is this the schedule? Are they here? And if you've neglected to get student A to sign those addendums, that could rise to a problem. Okay. I'm really just trying to give you some solid advice here.
I've got ideas
You do?
already, so yeah, thank
You?
you.
Thank you for the discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for them?
No, I was going to make a motion to approve with those changes.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Any other discussion? And I assume that motion comes with an inspection?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, I'm good. We have a motion by Amy Tanksley and a second by Lane Petty to inspect, and that would be with a field inspector. And so once the documents are revised to meet your requests, you'll send those to me and let me know when you're ready to be inspected. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you. Members, if you will. If you could on your iPads switch over to that item, you have 138 cases today. I believe one's being pulled off the report. Mike will give us some information regarding that. Michael, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, board.
Your mic's not on.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. As Roxana stated, there are 138 cases on the report. We have, I believe, I wrote it down here somewhere, 115 cosmetology cases, 14 barber cases, and 9 represents. But as also Roxana stated, there are some items that I need to bring to the board's attention. On item number 69, I have a civil penalty of $600. I believe that should be $500. If my math is correct, and I apologize for that. Then on item number 108, that is not for the board's consideration today. That was actually paid through an agreed citation. Then I move on to item number 134. I believe that's a represent. In the update, it should say, please see update to item number 133, which is the preceding case. And then finally, in the represents, the final case, number 138, that is going to be passed to the next legal report. Absent, go ahead.
Did you say case 108 or 109?
On the agreed citation,
Yes.
that
Page,
was,
our page 38.
yes, item number 108.
And that was paid, so we're taking that off?
Yes, that is coming off the report. It's
Can we
been
still
disposed of.
discuss this case or no?
It's already been settled,
Okay.
so I would say it's pretty much a done deal at that point. So,
And if I can just remind us, whatever we would have proposed for them to pay and do would have been at a board meeting, a decision by the board. So once that's decided and they comply with it, there's,
Oh, no, I'm fine with the
Okay.
penalty. I just wanted to make sure that this shop was flagged. It seems egregious to have 7 unlicensed people working there, and this appears to be their second offense by previous fines. So I'm just wanting to, on the record, make a point to mark that the next time they should be asked to be closed. Is that how it's working still?
so that is a great point. And for our newest members, this may be new because maybe it's a good thing we haven't had it. What the board had discussed and decided in the past was if there is unlicensed activity, the civil penalties are $1,000 per the person. And obviously the history would pick up on the repeat offenses. However, as far as truly revocation, the board determined that it's a difference, not a huge one maybe, but there is a difference with an unlicensed person and someone running out the back, someone hiding in a cabinet. That unlicensed activity, on the third strike that anything like that is happening, that is the closure. That is where the board felt very strongly at that point in time, that shop shouldn't be open. If people are running out the back when the inspector comes in, it's not only $1,000 for unlicensed activity, that's a concern. Those are the cases where the third time we went and that happened, that was an automatic on the third time recommendation for revocation. We haven't had many, but that was the plan. So on this one, I agree with the numbers. We haven't, and it would be up to your discretion. If it comes back and there's 5 more, the board would decide, is that a closure? Do we treat it as egregious as running out the back? And I don't have the perfect answer, you all would. But it would probably otherwise just be $5,000. But you all would get to decide. So either way, you'll see the history. Does that help? I think the concern at that time was because we did see in the summary individuals running out the back when the field inspector, and you all decided and discussed that's egregious also at a different level.
and Ms. Tanksley, I believe you'll also notice, I think I have 2 matters or 2 items where that is the recommendation because it is the third offense on both of them.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. I will review the rest of them. I apologize for jumping the gun, but it's been a minute since we've seen 7 at one time. And that's concerning because we have seen a lot of unlicensed activity. I just, personally, right, we are seeing more applicants and people who have been working in Middle Tennessee who do not have licenses, and businesses have an incentive to hire them and put them to work because the demand is there. But clearly that is not legal. And I'm glad that it's being caught, but I want to continue to discuss that.
In my 4.5 years, I believe that's the highest one I've seen.
Yeah. So I'm glad they didn't run out the back door, but I'm also concerned that this is a business practice, not an oops.
Thank you.
Mike, I've noticed in this particular report, a couple of cases involving MMA. Are we
Yes.
starting to encounter a lot more of that? It seems like the last month we had one as well.
Yes, but this one, I believe I remember about three MMA.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so generally, they're sending me pictures in response, I believe, on a couple of those. I'm kind of going by feel on whether those need a further inspection or not. But if the board's of the opinion that even if they do provide a picture, we still want to reinspect, then, I will obviously abide by the board's
Right.
thoughts on that.
Well, on the one note, it said EMA, so it could have been just an oversight or a misidentification or something like that. But it seems like today that our practitioners really ought to know about MMA. So I think I'm going to just kind of keep an eye on it. If we do continue to see a rise in that, we may need to look at them a little bit harder.
And probably going forward, I think my recommendation will be, unless the board tells me otherwise, that probably that should be a reinspect if it hasn't been previously inspected from the complaint.
For some of our members who may not know what that is, methyl acrylate is a really, really dangerous nail product that we did away with a long time ago. Do we have any other discussion of cases? It's
It's methyl methacrylate acrylic. I think I'm saying it right. Oh, no. That's more legal nowadays than ever, but it's a chemical that's kind of formaldehyde based, and inhaling it for long periods of time can cause all kinds of diseases and that kind of thing.
Okay. Not at all. Not at all. Do we have any other questions on the report? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
With those, any changes or amendments, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate your hard work.
Thank you so much, Mike. We had a motion from David McElreath and a second from Lane Petty, all in agreement to proceed with the legal report with the amendments that Mike has presented. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Joe just to do a quick update on the rules in the pipeline or where they are.
Good morning, board members. Last time we had our board meeting, we went through I gave you the rulemaking package that addressed quite a bit of issues with the Cosmetology Compact, the restricted retail alcohol license, and then the department's retrospective review. Those rules have passed through legal department's layers of review. They're currently with Reed, who introduced himself to you all this morning. He's the assistant commissioner for reg boards. So he'll be reviewing those. And then from that point, it would then go to the commissioner, and then we would schedule that rulemaking hearing that we discussed, where we would go through those rules in detail, and then you all would be able to give specific feedback if you saw revisions to wording when needed. So I just wanted to advise that process is moving forward. And I think we'll be at a status at our next meeting to go ahead and schedule the rulemaking hearing. So the rulemaking hearing will not take place at our next board meeting, but we should be able to schedule it firm and then start 2025 with a rulemaking hearing. Can't believe we're already to 2025 almost.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Does this include information on this multi-state license?
So the Cosmetology Compact.
That's what it is.
Correct.
Sorry, you said that. That's what it's called. Okay.
The rules address, the rulemaking packages that we have address some of the matters in the statute that created the Cosmetology Compact. So the Cosmetology Compact created this new structure, but then it also had specific provisions that addressed our current rules that exist immediately. So we've knocked out the ones that address immediately. The overarching compact, the tires haven't met the road on that because they need to meet themselves now that we have enough in place that they can put the committee together, and then that committee will meet, and then we'll start kind of meshing the two together. But we haven't hit the ground on that actually yet.
Okay, it's exciting. I'm just curious. I've got folks asking me lots of questions about it.
The only thing I want to remind you, because I know your shops are probably some are dual, but the barber, this is cosmetology only. So we hope that once that profession takes off, that other parts of the industry can be done. I'll be going in October to start the piece on the cosmetology multi-state, and we're already starting to talk about aesthetics. So hopefully our barber side of the industry will like what's been done and jump on board. We will continue to try that.
I get it. I mean, there's more cosmetology licenses, so
That
they
and
lead the way.
it has to do with scope, right? It has to do with being okay with accepting what other states do. So more so than the numbers.
Interesting.
Yes. Thank you so
Well,
much.
Ron's in
Joe.
Georgia, so he can solve that. I just find out something new about you every month. It's only been 10 years, Ron, and here we are.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Members, if you come back to your main presentation, we're going to go over our felony applicants, and I'll give everybody a minute. You have before you documentation, and those start on page 50. You have three different individuals, Raymond McDaniel, Michelle Moore Jr., and Spencer Phillips. These are applicants that are currently incarcerated or and have a felony, and therefore their licensure request at this time is coming before you. They are required to take the Tennessee examinations. You have before you a recommendation by someone within the facility and the information about the felony that they have. The board always reviews these, and it is customary to approve a 2-year agreed order for these individuals before we go ahead and license them. If you have any questions, let me know. And on occasion, we have done a longer agreed order, but we've approved everyone. Thank you.
If appropriate, I'd make a motion, we approve all three.
I'll second that motion.
Motion second to approve all applicants. Discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. They're approved.
Thank you. And that was a motion by David McElreath and a second by Amy Tanksley, all in approval. We will move on to your miscellaneous items. And board members, this starts on page 63. We only have one individual. You have before you a request to waive the need to retest. This is pursuant to Rule 0440-01-.10, which states that an applicant must pay for their original license within 6 months after passing the examination. The board has, for good cause, extended that time period. They have also given me the authority to extend 6 additional months. In this particular case, Ms. Chelsea Rainey is providing an explanation as to why she failed to apply for the license until now. She passed her manicure practical exam on September 28th of 2022.
So it's been 2 years?
Plus, yes, ma'am. Well, almost. Yes, that is correct. And page 63 has her email explanation, and I believe we've had some that have been in this close to 2-year period that you've approved, but reviewing them always one by one after the 1 year.
I make a motion to approve her license.
We have a motion and a second to approve the license. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And that's a motion by Amy Tansley and a second by Perry Baldwin, all in agreement. Thank you, members. Next, we're going to look at the director's report. The first item is the financial statement. We have the first preliminary numbers through June of 2024. As you know, we work on a fiscal year, therefore June will be the last month for information. We usually have 1 or 2 entries to make sure everything's been accounted for. The board is at a deficit for this year of $59,108. The final closure numbers as far as the total reserve is right now at $1,163,365. We've had a couple of conversations about this and the potential or realistic need that we would be increasing fees. However, we do have a significant reserve. We're not short that much. I believe last year we ended with about a $70 or $77,000 deficit. So this is a little bit less, at least right now. The thought in what we discussed is because the multi-state license is hopefully within a year going to roll out and we will know what that fee is, which is up to each person to decide to carry it or not. It will impact reciprocity in our world as well. So at that time, we look at all the fees, our shops at a right place, our schools and our individuals. And something that the board is aware of, I know, is the low fee income waiver has also been an amazing thing. We are the industry that has offered that free first license more than anything else. And I believe that number's been in excess of 50 to 100,000 that we've been able to waive that fee for federal or state assistance program, which is a great thing. So from different angles, fees have gone up, wages have gone up for all of our staff, which has been very needed. But it obviously, there's a cost factor there. And then some of the fees that we take in have gone down. So we will look at that as a whole before we present the numbers, not anytime soon, since we know the compact's going to impact.
Can we discuss, did you might have just mentioned this?
Sure.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but the fees for the legal, increasing those?
Absolutely. They have gone up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at where we're spending the majority of our money, and that's in field inspection, clearly, and I understand that why that's there, but.
Yes. And it's gone up not only because, and this was a large study by the governor and his office, right, that looked at what state employees are paid, not only here, Department of Corrections, health, you name it, and we just didn't compare to other industries. So that impacted our field inspectors, legal, everybody from bottom to the top. So that did have an impact. With our field inspectors, the cost there includes gas, includes their computer system, everything. So the impact of the program has been very significant. The last time we touched fees was in 2017, and the fees worked both ways. We increased the cosmetology fees, which had not been touched since, I believe, 1995. We reduced the barber fees that had gone up in 2008 for self-sufficiency. Their fees were $80 and they doubled. They no longer double now. So now, and we're going to talk about that next, so it's kind of a good leadway. Now everyone is $60 within the licensees. We did the same thing for the shops. The shops weren't paying the same amount, nor the schools. So 2017 brought us everybody to be just about at the same place. Frank Ambuza, who I know we all miss, said, but Roxana, you're lowering fees. You don't ever lower fees. But it was the right thing. Not going to prove him right and me wrong, but we needed our licensees to all pay the same amount. It was the fair thing. So now we're looking at COVID and fee and, cost of.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be on record saying I hate to see the people who are doing things right in this industry see their fees increase when we continue to have so many people not following the rules and laws. And I'm glad that fee structure will also be addressed in this process.
Yes. And, we haven't touched the civil penalties on complaints, but I wouldn't encourage us to do that. I think our encouragement is more education. Those of you that know that this is going on in shops, to report them so we can, try to take care of that. There's a lot of other ways, but our number of complaints have gone up. They've been steady for quite a while and they've gone up. Also, social media is playing a role in some of this. And we can't do a lot about some of those complaints. We can't. They just do appointments on the computer. And so it becomes complicated for us to catch some of that unlicensed activity. I know. Sorry. So that particular is information on our finances. I want us always to kind of keep that in mind as we move forward and look at what that number should be for fees. The next item that Joe touched on regarding the compact bill that we called it, that law that changed, also did a couple of different bills, or 3 different items were cleaned up. One of them was our barber, the law that doubled the barber fees when a master barber paid late, that got eliminated. So that's a great thing. However, by eliminating that line on the law still says that the cosmetology board may set that fee. And so we're working, and we're going to set the fee to $25, which is exactly the penalty under the cosmetology board. And then, as the members know, if you don't renew within 3 years, you would have to test unless you've held that license for 20 years. So there's different paths for that. But in the meantime, until those rules are final, we're kind of with no fee for the barbers. So I would like the board members to give us the permission to, until the rules are final, charge the $25 penalty to our master barbers that renew late, so that there's a path for them.
We need a motion to give the authorization for that.
I make a motion to approve the fee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the fee as discussed. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
And I'm going to double check with Joe, make sure I haven't missed anything. So what we're doing here is, if a master barber pays the renewal at $60, that's very clear, that's in the rule. If they renew late, and the first group that were impacted by that were our July 31st expired individuals that renewed August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and today. And so the board has just given us authority to charge them the same $25 penalty as the cosmetologists. And we'll move forward. And then the rule that will go through the pipeline and finish will obviously add that fee to the rule structure. Correct?
Yeah, Roxana's spot on. So the way that it was written was, the statute said a barber that applies or renews their license late after 1 year would have to pay double the fees normally assessed. And then the rule said you have to follow statute A on the amount that you have to pay. There was no amount stated in our rules. It just cited the statute referencing double the number. So now that that statute's gone, the rule that was in place is referencing something that no longer exists. So that's why we have to put an amount on it, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing. This
I'm
is
just
a
really
big
glad you
deal.
guys are good at the details like that.
My job, so yeah.
I love it. Thank you, members. We have one item under new business, and we have, I believe, Mr. Jamal Arnold is on the call if we have any questions. So before you, as the last item on your iPads, this is a request from one of our licensees. Mr. Arnold's a school owner, an instructor, a licensee. He is asking the board to consider a possibility of doing a rule change or update. And this is regarding the apprenticeship and the number of students that a supervising professional can take on as apprentice students. So his proposal is, if we could increase it to 3 students per supervising professional. So to recap, the law is very simple. The law says a school may offer apprenticeship at 50% of the hours at the school and 50% under a supervising professional with 10 years or more. That's it. When we worked on rules that took about 2 years, those of you that are here will remember, the board was very diligent in protecting the students so they could finish successfully, making sure that everything was done right. And so in that path, we created that the theory exam had to be passed, which was vital and huge and has proven really successful, and that the supervising professional can only take 1 student. That one-on-one was very important at that time. I've heard different individuals bring that up. Mr. Jamal put it in writing, but that was his point. As more of our schools are offering apprenticeships, some are opening just as apprenticeship schools, I believe they're running into a situation where there are not enough licensed supervising professionals with the 10 years to take on students with the one-on-one ratio. So that is his request. We won't solve anything today, but the conversation, and then you guide Joe and I to determine, do you want that rule changed to be more than one-on-one? And he is on the call if you have questions, Ron, but I pretty much, I think, have recapped it, and it isn't the first time that it was brought up. So I don't know that, you have a lot of questions.
Roxana touched on something that again, for the ones of us who were here through that, we went through some great deliberations and lots of discussions and pros and cons to come up with that number. And I think that the number was decided on because of the supervising professional, of course, is working in a shop and running that shop, and they're engaged in doing their business. And so their attention would be divided between the operations of the shop versus focusing on that trainee. It would be too much to go back and rehash all of that at this moment. But I think most of us probably remember a lot of those discussions. To increase the number of potential apprentices, in my opinion, could lead to some unforeseen consequences of maybe not having the intended supervision that was originally decided. Personally, I don't, in my own personal opinion, I wouldn't be in favor of increasing that number without a great deal more discussion on requirements of what that supervisor is really doing for that student. Because in a school setting, of course, an instructor, a licensed instructor who's trained and in that role has kind of a captive audience, and their role is to simply instruct that student and supervise them completely. And the state has numbers that says that's a certain ratio, but it is in a very controlled environment. So that's just my opinion. So whatever anybody else thinks is great too.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm on the other end of that, right? And we get calls pretty regularly at my business from schools who have students interested in the apprentice program and are looking for businesses to partner with to put their students in my business. And at this point, I've been very candid. I don't think at this point, and I have over 70 employees, have a 10-year licensed barber on my team across 7 locations. And I don't know why that is. They clearly exist, but we would love to have these associates at my business to help them grow frankly, faster behind the chair and be ready to go once they're licensed. So, now that we've had so many years of these rules being in place, I would love to discuss the rules. I think I mentioned to someone in your offices that the 10-year is a law. That's not a rule. I have lots of folks who've been licensed for 5 years. It's that 10-year mark that I'm not really sure what happens, but moving that metric from 10 years to 5 years would be advantageous for personally my business to take on more apprentices. But I've learned in the industry that the supervision is all over the place once these apprentices are in an actual shop. So I don't know how to solve that. I think there are some shops who take it very seriously, and I think there are others who are putting unlicensed folks on the floor and putting them to work without much teaching or experience. So pros and cons.
Amy, if I could add, just as you continue the conversation, we're talking about 2 different things that are related because they're about apprenticeship. The law that actually says under a licensed supervising professional with 10 years of licensure, that law would need to be changed for your proposal. And I have heard exactly what you've said many times. So that would be anyone, a Tennessee resident contacting their senator or House representative to ask for that to be changed to whatever you think that magical number is, because I've been asked that. Why can't it be 3 years or 5? Because it's in the law. So that piece would work through that path and potentially drop and welcome individuals such as your employees that have 5 years. The rule that we created, you worked on so hard, is that one-on-one that Mr. Arnold is asking us to consider and debate, that you would have the criteria to touch and work on your own. And that too has been presented several times. Why is it just one-on-one? And I'll explain the reason, since I was part of those rules. But through two different sides, and maybe the magic is through both sides, there's an amendment. I don't know.
Well, I would love to see the data too, and I don't know how much data even exists, to say students who are going through the apprentice program, my world is specifically barbering, but what percentage of them are going through the program, getting half their hours in a shop, and then getting licensed? Your school has all that data to know how many people are getting licensed and passing their tests. It's really powerful to compare that versus the in-person program to see if it's working or not, or if these folks are just disappearing because they're working unlicensed and never getting their license. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. I would also love to discuss specifically, in my instance, I have several licensed instructors on my team. They also don't have 10 years, but they're licensed instructors who choose not to work at a school. They might work at a school part-time, but they work for me part-time or full-time too. I don't know if the rules specifically lay out if one of Ron's students could come apprentice with me because I have a licensed instructor supervising them at my business. I don't know that that exists either.
I don't recall off the top of my head, but it may refer to or licensed instructor. I don't recall.
I don't remember either.
I'd have to look it up.
It did at one point. If you recall, that had to actually be changed. When the law was written on the barber statute a year after the cosmetology, the word or, it was and.
And
It said
it was
and.
yes.
And we only had
and.
130 master barber instructors. So barber apprenticeship could not roll out for an additional 2 years because of the shortage of individuals and the word and. Now it says or, so whether they're an instructor or not wouldn't matter, but the 10 years is still there.
Yeah. Amy, to kind of join on you a little bit. While I feel pretty strongly on the 1-to-1 ratios, that speaking to the law portion of this, that 10-year number is something that I absolutely would be in favor of looking at. I think that given the thought processes of the time when it was originally brought out, that made a lot of sense. Today, I think we can probably look at it with a little bit of foundational information and some numbers behind it if we can take a look at some of that. But I think 10 years is definitely a number that could be looked at if that becomes an option.
Yeah, what we're just finding, Ron, and I don't know if you find this too, is, my newer employees to this industry are the ones with all the energy, and they're excited to teach. They're excited to give back. They're excited to take an associate. Whereas, I have members of my team who've been behind the chair for 10 years plus, and they are really good at what they do, but they've moved on, and they're trying to be with their family and be behind the chair. And, this isn't a job you can do virtually anywhere. And so they're less excited and interested to do more work with a limited schedule. So I don't know that explains why I don't have any barbers with 10 years, but I don't know that I've ever, maybe one or two over all these years, who have 10 years of licensing.
In order to change that rule.
Monica? Yeah, press your button.
In order to change that rule, someone other than the board member, someone in our working industry needs to reach out and request a change in the law. Is that what you were?
Yeah, so essentially the laws and statutes are set by the legislature. So essentially that would require the state Senate and state House of Representatives to propose a bill, vote in favor of it, and have it instituted. Rules are within our realm, and they are sub-statute. So a statute would read, hey, we're going to create the Barber Cosmetology Board, and they're going to have the power to make rules. Well, that's a statute. And then below us, we can formulate rules, but we can't formulate the statute itself. So if the statute references 10 years, then that has to go through the legislator. It's not something that we could expedite or change within ourselves. If that does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for expanding the associate program. I think finding more ways to get more one-on-one eligibility. Yeah, I'm all for it.
The only thing from this that I think that I could add is that there might be the ability for somebody to take on more than one student if the students were part-time, and so it's like one at a time versus
Not conflicting schedules.
right. So if a barber is working 40 hours and he has one student for 20 hours and the other student for 20 hours, that might help alleviate some of those issues. But the way that the rules are currently, that it would not even allow for that. So I don't know that might be helpful to put,
Well, I mean, the reality is no one's inspecting this in the shops, from what I understand. So I don't know, right now, if an associate is, and Ron, you can speak to this because you're in this world, but if you've got students in your shop who are associates, who are apprentices in a school, other than filling out the paperwork and sending it back to the school with all the hours and such, I'm not really sure who's monitoring what happens in the shop.
Thank you. I can add to that. So the supervising professional is responsible. Their license is on the line. So they are, by rule, supposed to keep track and have a log available at all times for the inspector. So that log is supposed to say Becky Russell is here today, sign her in, number of hours. We should also be able to see Becky Russell's log for the last week to see that she got 20 hours in a week. That log then is submitted to the school by the 1st of the month for the school to turn hours in by the 10th. So the rules that you all worked on actually trace the whole thing. Our field inspectors struggle with some of these inspections because when we show up, they'll say that's an apprentice. We need to see the log. The log sometimes is incomplete. The log sometimes has the student's name, but not yesterday's hours. But that log is the responsibility of the supervising professional. And those inspections aren't, in some shops, they're going perfect. They've got the log, they've got 2 people with 10 years or more, and it's a piece of cake, and those inspectors are thrilled. In others, we've started to open administrative complaints because they're not tracking what they need to. And we can fall back to the school not training and doing it right, and to that supervising professional who is responsible for the student during those practical hours. Does that help? Kind of.
Yeah. The school is the foundation of that student. So the school still has responsibility to make sure that whoever they place them with is doing those proper things. If they're not, then the school is responsible to correct that and mitigate it. And the last school that applied this morning, and we had that discussion about when is their schedule here, that's exactly what I'm referring to. When the inspector comes in and records say X, but there's no basis to prove it, then that turns into a big problem. So, but it's the supervising professional as approved by the school, and the ultimate responsibility still is the school, because that's who the student is contracted with, and the school is who's authorized for everything. So,
So do we take this request and move it to our rulemaking hearing, or what are next steps?
So his request is for us to consider increasing it to 3. From everything I've heard, you all would not be interested in increasing it to 3, and correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe Ms. Russell posed a good kind of change that might cover some of it, which would be if the rules were tweaked to say each supervising professional can take 1 student at a time to which the schedule is properly posted for the inspector, then it's a possibility they could take up to 2 or 3, maybe listed in the rule, and tweak that line of the rule to allow for flexibility, but not say 3. Because then, to Ron's point, we would never know if the 3 are being taught at the same time. And remember that the rules say the student must have a seat. They have to have your chair. So I don't know, right, if that's ever a possibility for an instructor to have their chair to see their clients. And
I
3
think
more.
there are a lot of shops with a lot of empty chairs.
Yeah.
It's what's driving Is that what you're seeing in Memphis?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of empty barbershops who are desperate for licensed individuals, and I don't think it would be a problem to have one tenured professional with multiple associates with their own chair. So I think it's all how we want to describe how we want to see what's done.
I think the major difference between the two is that, sure, an instructor has a lot more students to supervise than just that one-to-one, but an instructor cannot be doing services at the same time. That is their sole job, is to look after that student and the needs of that student and clients. This one puts an instructor position open to, I'm triple booked all day long, and do I have time to supervise that student? So the one-to-one ratio, I think, has a lot to do with that.
I agree, but I think I agree with Roxana too. I think your idea of defining that they can have maybe more than one person, just not at the same time, so that there's real clarity in that. Folks, it's real simple. You'll have a barbershop owner making an arrangement with apprentice students, treating them as though they're employees for money-making processes, without truly trying to give them the education that and supervision for education that they need to complete that physical learning process. The focus is removed from the student learning and to place back on the profitability of the shop, I'm afraid. So are they going to be students or are they not? So I think there's room for a compromise in this.
So to bring it,
So are we making this decision today?
if we want to tweak what the rule says today, we could. If we want to look at the rule, because it's the rule on apprenticeship that's right there with the curriculum, and it adds to the curriculum, I think, 4 separate or more points. Look at that key item. You can send me your suggested language. I'll try to look at some as well. And maybe for the October meeting, we propose a new statement where the one-on-one is. What does that look like to change? And then you all can actually opine and vote and decide, okay, that word doesn't work. And we then look at it from that perspective. I think the 3-to-1 as it's presented, just left like that, probably wouldn't go, but allowing some flexibility as long as the words were there. And
But it could say that the supervising individual, whether that's a tenure licensed, and it can be barber or cosmetologist, right? Can it be nails?
So hold on. So the 10 years is in the law. We can't touch that.
Correct.
One of you can contact your representative, but that's the way the laws work. Anytime, any day, you can as a licensee, not as a board member, but as a licensee. That is the law change, and you propose it in writing, and a representative can decide to change that 10 years or not. But what we would be addressing is the rule that addresses the one-on-one for the supervising professional. What should that language look like? And you all may write that up in 10 different ways. I can email it to everybody so that at the meeting in October, we decide what is good for that to move forward. And it will take a while, because we probably won't open a rule package just for that. But if anything else is needed or when the time's right, that's how we would move that rule.
And the associates have to get 20 hours a week in the shop?
The minimum hours for a full-time enrollee is 20 hours, and I think it's 16 for part-time.
I think it's 20 for the part-time or less, and 25 or
25.
more
That's
for
right.
full-time.
That's right.
Yes.
So part-time is a minimum 20 hours.
Okay.
If you all wanted me to do it, I don't mind working on proposed language, and then I can present option A, option B, option C. We can have a new discussion at our next board meeting. You can throw all 3 out. You can choose one that you like, or maybe we table the issue for the future, but I can go ahead and start working on it as a single point of reference, and then we can discuss.
Your
next
language
time.
is probably going to be more correct than my language would ever look like in this regard.
You're giving me a lot of credit. I am more than
I'm
happy
very
to take
thankful
it.
for what you do.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
I make a recommendation, we table this until next month and get more information and then be able to address it.
One last thing is that we can't forget the no more than 150% of the time. Like they must complete in no more than 150% of the time that it would have taken them for a traditional school. So we just have to be careful that we're mindful of that. Is this even feasible and still get them finished in 150% of the time?
And I don't know that we need a motion since we were having the conversation of a request from a member, but yeah.
We've had a motion to table this till October. I would very much appreciate if you would, Joe, if you would work on some language for us. And members, if you have any ideas, I'm sure Roxana would appreciate any input you have for that. We can bring this back and look at it then. Okay.
Got a motion?
We got a motion. We have a second.
Perfect.
That emotion with him, put it into some good terms that we can understand and work on.
All in favor?
Aye.
This motion's tabled.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, that's perfect. The last item that we look at under new business is if anyone is here that wants to address the agenda or have any questions, this would be an opportunity for them to talk to the board members if I missed anything, and those participating through Teams, the same applies. If you have any questions on the agenda or any other items, please let us know. Dana, if you see any raised hands, please let us know so we take a minute, and then otherwise, at least my part of the meeting is finished. Ms. Smith, I see your hand is raised. If you can unmute yourself, welcome to the meeting.
Hello, I just have a few questions about the newest service that's hit the hair industry, which is the head spa. Could you tell me what are the requirements of having a head spa and who can perform the service?
So I see a lot of, I'm looking at our board members and some confusion. We have gotten in the office several questions about this. I think some of our emails even refer it to some type of something with the word shampooing by it. And so I believe that's what Ms. Smith is referring to, and it's a new service. And as you all know, being in the industry, new things are invented all the time. The guidance that we have attempted to give was if it is about shampooing is not regulated. Anyone can shampoo. So that a shop offering a whatever, a head spa, a shampoo of some sort, if it is about the shampooing service, we don't regulate it. Anyone can do it. If it involves cutting hair, something else other than shampooing, then it would fall under barber or cosmetology and so forth. I think that's all I can add, Ms. Smith, unless I'm missing something. Is the service about shampooing?
No, it's way more than shampooing. This is a service. It's not just about relaxation. One of the main things to have a head spa is you are required to have like a clean water. So you want to make sure that minerals and hard water that is on the scalp is not being put back on after doing a scalp exfoliation. So we're also doing scalp analysis. There's a lot more than just doing shampooing. You're applying treatments to the scalp.
Are you applying hot tools? Are you drying hair, styling hair, anything like that?
Yes, depending on what products you put. Myself, I have done, it actually took me over the last 3 years of getting into the trichology side of cosmetology, specializing in scalp health to bring this service to Tennessee. And so there's a lot that you wouldn't want to do a chelating treatment on somebody to remove hard water and minerals off of their scalp and hair and not have clean filtered water because they're wasting their money, so
How is your facility licensed right now?
so I am a salon. I also do trichology, so I help with hair loss and with services with, I have psoriasis. That's one reason why I wanted to specialize in this service, is because I want to help other people.
Okay,
Um,
so your shop is a licensed cosmetology shop at this point in time, correct?
yes, that's correct.
And you're a licensed cosmetologist, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So you're good to do those services. There's nothing additional needed, so I'm not sure I'm following your request here.
So, I'm for one, I want to say that I do a lot of, or I have done a lot of volunteer work with Becky at the TCAT school. So she has seen my salon. I don't think she's seen it since I've had the head spa. There are people that are t- getting people that comes in with psoriasis, things that could be possibly, they could take a comb, some type of instrument, and scrape the hair or the scalp and cause them to be red and have open spots. And then they're going to apply product on top of that, which is going to burn. So if they really don't know what they're doing, they could cause more harm than good.
Okay, I'm going to pause you right here.
Sure.
Again, maybe I'm a little confused in what you're trying to ask us. You're using this term, a head spa, as though it's a medical treatment service or something like that, or a advanced type of hair care. A licensed cosmetologist is authorized to do a number of treatments under the normal parameters of the craft. I'm not aware of any license that specifically for a head spa or anything like that. So again, if you're a licensed cosmetologist in a licensed shop, you're permitted to do many of those services. How you do it, and if you have some product line or specific training that is more industry or proprietary related, as long as it's within the scope of the practice of your license, then you're okay. You don't need anything else.
Okay. So anybody can come in. It could be, you know, just anybody off the street, and they can shampoo. Can they apply a treatment to the scalp?
No, shampooing is strictly shampooing. That's not applying chemicals and treatments and hair colors and things like that. That is outside the scope.
Okay. All right. See, and I know this service is so new that there are groups on Facebook. There's massage therapists. There's people that are trying to work their way around the service. I'm just trying to
Okay.
make sure that.
Yeah, we've exceeded our time here. I'm going to go ahead and pause you there because we're talking about licensees and other fields and things that don't pertain to our scope of abilities here at this board. If you know of practitioners doing things outside their scope, I would suggest that you go online and make that report to the state board in the form of a complaint, and it would be investigated. But
So
yeah, if someone is practicing anything without the appropriate license, then that would be an issue. Okay.
So can an esthetician do a cosmetology? Can they do that service?
An esthetician is licensed to do a specific class of applications. And if it's not specifically listed in those regulations, then I'd say that they're not. If it crosses over, there's a definition of what cosmetologists or barbers or estheticians or nail techs do. You can simply look that up, and it covers in the state regulations and state laws. It identifies what the scope of practice is for each one of those crafts. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Gillihan. Thank you so much. I believe we have one other hand raised. Is that Ms. Turner? Ms. Turner, welcome to the meeting. Thank you for joining us for a bit. Well, for the whole meeting.
Hi. Yes. No, and I couldn't get my hand to go back down. It was a mistake. But hi, everybody. I miss you all.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We will see you October for sure. Welcome back to school. Thank you, ma'am.
Everybody.
Members, I think that's all we have through Teams and here in person.
Students in the back, did you guys have any questions you'd like to ask before we wrap this up? It's an opportunity. Okay.
It's been more exciting than most.
All right. On that note, members, I would thank you for your attendance and your hard work, and Roxana, all your staff, for everything that you do for us. Do we have anything else that needs to come before the board?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I second.
I see Miss Laney over there. All in favor, say aye. We are adjourned for our.
Thank you very much.